Greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. We are in Dallas one more day. We have a very special in-studio guest for the Deace Group, our good friend Jill Savage. It's just like it's any other Friday, Jill. It's just you and I are actually sharing at the same studio for a change.
It is. It's exciting, actually, to be here with you, because usually I'm just hanging out on my own. So to actually have some company in the studio is nice.
And I got to ask you, I mean, a little inside baseball for people that don't remember. Jill kind of got her big breakthrough working at the old, now defunct Pac-12 network, right?
There, huh?
And just like me, you know, kid from Iowa, started off working in sports broadcasting and now has decided that they don't want to have nearly as many friends as they once had by fighting the culture war. That's kind of how it works when you make that transition.
100% true, yeah. Steve.
Lots of people don't return messages that used to when you're just talking sports, right?
Oh, what are you doing now?
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
You work for them. You're doing that. Yeah. Anyway, hope all is well. Yeah. Smiley face and then ignore. Yeah, on the text. Yeah. So today with the old Pac-12 schools now officially joining the Big Ten. All right, it's today. I mean, who knew, that this Iowa girl was actually working for the Big Ten Network the entire time, Jill?
When I moved out to Oregon for my very first job in TV, and again, you just go wherever you can get your first gig, right? And so I went to Portland, Oregon, where I saw a lady downtown walking a cat on a leash, and I thought, what have I done? And
is this hell? No, it's not Iowa.
No, it's not Iowa.
Yeah.
But little did I know that one day would be Big Ten country, and here we are.
Indeed. And now we get to add all the USC Heisman Trophy winners.
That's right. Give Reggie Bush back his Heisman. We did it.
It's another Big Ten Heisman winner. All right, back there in Big Ten country, our good friends Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Gentlemen, how are you this fine Friday?
Doing well.
Read my shirt, and that's how you know. I pulled out a classic because that's where we live.
Yeah. Yes, that's... I know. I've been on the phone or on the air since I got up this morning trying to fix things I probably can't fix, but it's just the way that I'm wired. I can't sit there and just do nothing. So I'm sorry, is this on? Anyway, coming up on the show today, we will have Feedback Friday. Sorry, you guys got a little excursion into my psyche and trauma at the moment.
It's going to be one of those days.
No, it's not. I met a member of the Osmond family today.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm Americana lives somewhere still, at least. Okay, so I'm good. All right, but we'll get to Feedback Friday coming up later on in the program. I don't know if you guys have seen more economic news that is not good. I mean, they do this. I know you follow the economic stuff closely, Jill. I mean, has there been a month this year that they have not readjusted the unemployment rate from what they originally reported?
You mean they're lying to us about numbers?
It consistently happens, and so today it always comes out the first Friday of every month. Today, they're admitting now with the fake numbers that the unemployment rate was worse than they thought, which means when we get that every month this year, 2-week adjustment of, well, here's what it really is, that won't get nearly the headlines. How bad do you think that's going to be? All right, folks, just another reason why you want to get hooked up with our friends over at Birch Gold. In these crazy times, there is peace of mind and security. And gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings to get that peace of mind as a hedge against escalating inflation. They're a physical asset that is in high demand globally whenever you have government debasement schemes. What does that mean, Steve? It means the kind of economy that we have right now. That's what it means. That's what's going on. All right, so if you want to diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver, there's one thing you can do to secure your family savings. Text Steve to 989898 right now. That's text Steve to 989898. Receive a free, no obligation info kit and learn the role that precious metals can play in your overall savings strategy. Again, text Steve to 989898. That's text Steve to 989898. And I'll just tell you, made an investment in Bitcoin here in the last few years. And I mean, overall, that investment is up 55% from where I put it, my initial investment in this almost 3 years ago. That's a great ROI, obviously. But here's the thing that frustrates me. It's very unpredictable, right? So like last weekend, the hopefully likely next president of the United States basically said, I'm going to be the Bitcoin president. And actually said out loud, as a billionaire, I invest in Bitcoin, don't sell your Bitcoin. Just said that out loud, right? Don't hold on to it, okay? You would think, all right, the most famous man in the world goes to your event and says, I own your asset, and don't sell it, it's going to grow all the more. Jill, just basic economic theory, you would think that would do what to the trend line of said asset in the days that followed?
Number go up.
It has not. It's actually gone down. Okay. I mean, it's just, and what it flummoxes me to see Bitcoin actually respond to the same market cycles that everything else does. And I'm like, well, what is the point of an alternative currency if it's going to respond to the same market cycles that the conventional, economy does, right? That's another reason, folks, to take a look at gold, okay? There's a reason why it has stood the test of time against times just like this. So text Steve to 989898 and get that free, no obligation info kit from our friends over at Birch Gold. All right, with that, it's finally time for the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
So I got a message to Donald Trump. Stop talking, America. This is the greatest country on the face of the earth.
Hello, can we talk about the whole weirdness conversation and the far right? It is so weird that libs of TikTok and these far right accounts post about children obsessively. I want to talk to the kids. Parents watch the video and then hand the phone over to the young kids. Hi there. I dress only for myself. Going no contact will feel worse. Can't lie to you.
We come from a company that is dedicated to registering Hispanic people so they can vote in upcoming elections. Are you already registered? We already voted. You already voted? Yes. Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered or?
Yeah.
Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered at work? Yes, we have. You've already been registered? Are you a citizen or not a citizen?
People who aren't citizens can't vote.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
Arizona,
Republicans made it illegal in 1995. Okay, no, you're right. You're right.
You don't think an illegal? Let me just say this: you don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in the federal election?
No, because it's not.
Oh my God!
No, actually, I disagree with that. I
you don't think no. This guy, the delegate guy, you're so smart. You don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in the presidential federal election?
Probably not.
But the idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel, interesting, powerful concept.
Yes, women's freedom is Exhibit A after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care. Men are more free.
Yeah, what is your message to Vance?
You don't mess with childless cat ladies.
Attorney General in California, and she was the senator from California. I really don't know much of what she did.
I'm not sure I know enough about her accomplishments to answer that question.
The way that she carries herself.
She was Attorney General of her state. She moved up to becoming, the Vice President of the United States. So she has definitely she's definitely made her stamp in history of being the first African-American female vice president, and soon to be first vice president as a woman of color.
I'm dumber right now. I mean, I'm literally dumber. I am. Aaron, how long was that montage?
Like 3 minutes.
How long was it?
Ish.
I'm dumber. I am dumber than I was 3 minutes ago. Precipitously, measurably dumber. Which means, Jill, you get the first question. Ladies first, all right? And you're the guest. So what was this week's abomination of desolation that you just witnessed?
I'm going to leave all of the men's feelings for all of you to hash out because you guys are more qualified for that.
You cut me deep, Samwise.
Yeah.
You cut me deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that hurt you.
Yes.
Knowing the way that you love Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you have that.
Yes.
But what do people know about Kamala? Guess what, guys? It doesn't matter. That's what we're learning. Is can you name anything that she's done? Not really. You know why it doesn't matter? Because at the beginning of that clip, when you're voting in the election, are you a citizen? No, you're not. But you're registered to vote. Guys, I remember on this very show, we have talked extensively about Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. He has assured us that illegals cannot vote in the U.S. elections. So, again, what are we worried about, you guys? That we've been told so many times that this is a non-issue. Until organizations go out and do the groundwork to prove that this is happening right now. We think that they are just letting millions upon millions of people cross that southern border just for funsies. That's the worst of the week, because that is going to be the thing that matters the most. Because, again, we've joked about this being the most important election of our lifetimes. We have to win this one. The way that you don't is that people don't care about what Kamala is or isn't, even as a candidate, and the illegals are allowed to vote. That's the worst.
Todd and Aaron, who wants to go next? Todd, you go next. Go ahead.
Well, I got your back, Jill. Absolutely. It was going to be Rudy before you said anything, because it's not just Lord of the Rings, it's Rudy. And again, it's just like, folks, I'm not a prophet. It's just the science, okay? This guy should know better than anybody. If the things that are about brohood really make us men, no, they don't. Our fetishes, our modern day man boy fetishes, Rudy, Lord of the Rings, I'm telling you, it's making us dumber and weaker. I just think it's scientific certitude right now. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Rudy should be once more into the breach than any man on the face of the earth. And he wants to sit there and talk about his feelings, because we know the color of his toy lightsaber is pink. Guys, you got to pay attention to this. It's absolutely scientifically true. The reason you can say that about the border being funsies is because we have a bunch of men who are him. And they got that way because they have fetishized they've somehow managed to do this Gollum thing. It's schizophrenic that their favorite things are ostensibly the most manly things possible, and they don't feel like they have to do anything in real life to verify that. It's nauseating, it's pathetic, and it's the most real thing I know.
So
that was a homily right there. That'll preach.
Why are you making me
will preach?
follow
Good
that?
luck, Aaron.
Yes.
Go forth, young man. Yes.
Did you see what the Daily Beast published yesterday? Postulating that Josh Shapiro is actually falling down the Veep Stakes leaderboard for Kamala. Did you see this? Because
I did not know.
He allegedly covered up sexual harassment within his office.
Because he's Jewish?
Yeah. No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No.
So they need to come up with another reason not to pick him? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to get that in there. Addendum to the leading clip there. I just think it has to be Jeffrey Marsh. Groomer, yes. Creepy, yes. Would never leave a small appliance, not to mention small children, even anywhere close to him. But more than anything, he is the singularity of projection. The singularity of projection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, lefties thrive on projection. This is a tale as old as time. Rush Limbaugh talked about this when I was growing up. You did a little bit when I was growing up listening on WHO. Everything they attack you with is just a projection of what they truly are. It was what they're guilty of. And that is, I don't think maybe this year so far, that is maybe the best example of it. Talking about how libs of TikTok and the far right are just obsessed with children. That's all he does. That's all he does. He talks to children on TikTok because he's a groomer.
the Sean Astin thing and the point that Todd made about the irony of men who end up getting attached to the most masculine brands and pursuits, and yet still allow them to, they instead allow these things to emasculate them. As you were talking about that, Todd, I remembered as a kid, right? I mean, we'd watch Hoosiers, and we were like, guys, we got to go out and play basketball. You know what I'm saying? You're like, Todd, you know what I'm talking about. We'd watch Rocky, right? And we were like, we got to go like reenact, Clubber Lang and Rocky Balboa, You'd watch football with your buddies on a Sunday. You'd call your buddies up like, hey man, I'm in the mood to go play. I mean, the idea that these things actually were like provoking you to engage in more masculine pursuits, more manly pursuits. And the idea now, how is it possible that we are now in an era where these exact same things, and it's not just even that he starred in Rudy and Lord of the Rings, that would be bad enough, all right? But since Lord of the Rings, Sean Astin has probably starred in more faith-based content than David A.R. White. And only if you're a total nerd of homeschool evangelical subculture do you even know what I'm referring to. He's the guy that was the pastor in God's Not Dead that before Sean Astin and before Christian movies really took off was in every single Christian movie, okay? Sean Astin has been in tons of these films. Some of them are very good, by the way. And so this is not the kind of thing that you do as a one-off because you need a paycheck. He has done a catalog of faith-based content. So the amount of exposure he has received to our worldview is high. Throw that in on top of what Todd said about this is Rudy, and if you can't carry the ring, Mr. Frodo, I'll carry you. All right, that guy. Remember the day I found out what happened to Phil Vischer? You guys remember this day?
We lost the VeggieTales
We lost the freaking VeggieTales guy.
I was there that day.
Were you there that day?
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I had no idea the dude just lost his mind, and we lost the VeggieTales guy. We lost the VeggieTales guy. All right?
You walked off set.
I did. That clip of Sean Astin has that kind of impact on me. I've met him. I've interviewed him. I'm flabbergasted. Let me do a decade's worth of Pure Flix movies and star as Samwise Gamgee in the most badass fantasy story that humanity's ever written. And oh, by the way, before that, I'm going to star as Rudy, the guy that defied the odds, that took a freaking beating for 4 years just so I can get into a game once and get into 2 plays. By the way, you ever met Rudy Rudiker? You ever come across him in your sports media travels?
I have not.
I have, actually. Okay? I interviewed him many times. Yeah. He's not that guy. I'll just tell you he's not that guy. I'll promise you that's not true. Okay? And I am just flabbergasted. And so how does this happen? And Todd used a term, fetishize. And what I hear you saying, Todd, is that essentially these are now no longer, for many men of this era, these are no longer pursuits that provoke you to then want to go out on your own and, pursue that, masculine activity or significance. But instead, they provoke you to, it's a supplement for it. Like everything else, it's porn is easier than a real relationship where a girl might tell me no, and those girls never say no. The digital friend thing that Aaron had earlier this week, it's better than actually finding a friend. Okay, that the fake virtual aspect, we fetishized this. It's better than the real thing. That's what a fetish is.
Yes.
A fetish is, and from a sexuality standpoint, is that the standard practice of sex no longer does it for you, so you need something else. Okay. Yep. And I'm not talking about your wife wearing lingerie or your husband taking you to a romantic dinner. That's a relationship. I'm talking about, hey, could you dress up like Raggedy Ann? That'll really do it for me. Okay. That's what I mean. I need something fake.
Yep.
Because the real life doesn't do it for me anymore. And I'm going to tell you right now, brother, that is among the best things you, me, anybody has ever pointed out and said on this show.
I appreciate
which
it.
Unfortunately brings me to the exit question, because you know what's coming. Jill's pumping her fist over here. You just couldn't see it. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds, Hanlon's razor applies in a near assassination of Donald Trump, and 10 being the odds, Lindsey Graham has applied a razor to some guy named Hanlon once or twice. Or Thomas, or Smith, or Johnson. Pick a name. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Jill.
10.
You like that one?
I might give you a high five for that one.
Was that one that good? Was that good?
I liked it.
With an in-studio audience now, I was feeling the pressure to deliver. All right?
You could see. You could feel the eyes on
I
you.
was getting the death stare. The pressure was on. Yes, better hit that note. We got it? All right, Todd, go ahead.
You can't hurt me after that montage. It's a 10.
Yeah.
I'm at a 10.
Before we get to issue 2, let's talk about our friends over at realestateagentsitrust.com. You know, the theme we were talking about earlier with Birch Gold about where we are economically. We are still in the most challenging real estate market. Maybe when you look at standard of living and then how it applies to the context of the cost of a home and then the cost of a 30-year mortgage, this is likely the most expensive real estate market in American history. So it's never been more important than it is right now to make sure you go into this market with an agent that you can trust to guide you through. If they're listed in our database at realestateagentsitrust.com, then you know we have validated, verified their record and track record of success. Otherwise, we would not recommend them to you. And a lot of times, these agents are from right here in the audience here at the Blaze. So you guys share values in common as well. And if you need, whether it's you need to get across town, across state, or you need to move across the country, we're going to help you find an agent that'll get you to the finish line that you are looking for, the W that you need. So if you are looking for an agent that you can trust, the name says it all. Head over to realestateagentsitrust.com. Again, that's realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. If the government were actively attempting to get a crazed lone gunman to murder Donald Trump, how exactly would it have behaved any differently than it currently is?
So let's recap this line of events here. Apparently no radio recordings from the Secret Service exist in and around the attempted assassination of Donald Trump on July 13th. Thomas Matthew Crooks was able to fly a drone over a secure airspace on the day of the shooting, when we usually see drone flying shut down large events. Crooks was seen shimmying up a wall with a rifle. Crooks was able to negotiate a sloped roof deemed too dangerous for trained law enforcement and security. Trump was denied extra security. Somehow Crooks was able to get a clear line of sight less than 150 yards away to the former president, but a police sniper was able to take him out after he shot, of course, from 400 yards away. One congressman produced a video that showed how easy the shot Crooks was given and how there's no excuse that it was ever permitted. Crooks had a phone the FBI struggled to unlock at Quantico. The acting director of the Secret Service showed the Senate this week the vantage point the security had of Thomas Matthew Crooks and points out there was no excuse for how he was able to get there and how he wasn't taken out beforehand. But I'm sure these are all just coincidences.
So, Joe, we've discussed this, and for people that don't know, Hanlon's razor is the conservative smart set saying,
don't attribute malice to what can be explained by incompetency. Okay, so
it's that viewpoint. So we've discussed this quite a bit as a team. Did you like that one, Todd? Thank you. Let's get to your perspective with the near assassination of Donald Trump. And now we've got this Zapruder film like video with the dorsal view,
right?
We can just see Math Club shooter just moving around. Okay. Hanlon's razor or Occam's razor here, which is the simplest explanation, which is they were trying to kill Trump, must be true. What do you think?
I would go with the simplest answer is the most truthful answer in this scenario, because on Blaze News tonight, right, this is one of the things that we have covered basically every single day. We have a different guest on. We've had Senator Ron Johnson on most recently, and it's like he's up there and asking acting director Ronald Breaux all of these questions, and we're almost 3 weeks, right? It's 3 weeks tomorrow away from the event happening. And we still don't know anything. And even the people that are trying to hold their feet to the fire, even the good senators that we do have out there that are trying to figure out, okay, but you should answer this question. We still can't get the straightforward line that we just should have at this point in time. There's no excuse to not know some of these things. And for that reason, I would say it's Occam's razor, because this is one of the biggest events that we've ever seen. And yet, here we are. Like, I'm ready to pull my hair out at this point.
Is it because, and I said this to Glenn Beck just a few minutes ago, the Trump campaign has spent more time talking about Project 2025 and Heritage Foundation than the fact the president literally took a bullet to the face for America.
Yeah.
I mean, if I want to go back and tell myself 3 weeks ago that I'm going to say 3 weeks later the Trump campaign didn't milk this nearly enough. It's like I'd have said there's no way. If anything, they milked it so much that I'm like, guys, this is like, Antichrist level stuff. They have talked as a campaign more about Project 2025 and Heritage than they have about the fact the president took a bullet to the face. I'm just blown away by that.
100% agree with you. It kind of makes me go back to his RNC acceptance speech, where we had that great 20 minutes. And then it felt like 2 hours of just meandering through the woods. And it's like, okay, but let's narrow in here. Homeboy, you got shot. Let's focus on that for a very long time. Where is Donald Trump demanding answers every single day that he's out there at a new rally?
Why is the House in recess right now? Why are there not meetings, hearings? Why are we relying on hearings from the Democrat Senate?
Yeah.
There's just some things right now I don't get it.
The only one sliver of hope that I have in our buddy Steve Friend, FBI whistleblower, was saying, okay, yesterday on our show, we need a parallel investigation. We need somebody else with enough money to go out there and do it. And I've seen that Florida Representative Corey Mills has said he will independently fund a parallel investigation. He was one of them that has been endorsed by Donald Trump, so he has skin in this game. He wants to make sure that, he's kind of up and coming. And to get to the bottom of this, he has the military background. He's already been to Butler, Pennsylvania. So maybe we get that sliver of hope, but I'm not going to trust the FBI to sit there and give us any of these answers, because they haven't yet. And so do we think that, okay, in the first 3 weeks they can't give us answers, but in the next 3 weeks, oh boy, they're definitely going to figure everything out? No.
Gentlemen, we got about 90 seconds back there for the two of you. You're up.
We're living in a news cycle right now where there are not one but two men in the Olympics beating the crap out of women. And that's more nebulous. It is more obvious, honestly, that the government is involved in trying to assassinate a political figure than that. That's how crazy this world is.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to anything anybody was saying for the last 5 minutes, because I can't deal with the fact that like a 20-year-old dude is going to write in Ron Paul for president. I'm having a little crisis here. I can't deal with it. Okay, my pink lightsaber is not going to hold itself. Sorry. So I cannot comment on this story because I need a moment. Because Kyle Rittenhouse has gone woke, and he is just an enemy to the Republic now, and he must be shunned and mocked. I'm sorry. I need a moment.
Do you know what he's talking about, Steve?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I'm very well aware of it.
I was hoping for your sake you didn't, because it hurts.
Yeah, it does. It does. That's one of the reasons you guys don't know this if you're watching. It was pretty scattershot getting this thing launched this morning. That was one of the reasons I've been on the phone all morning long. And I probably can't fix anything. I probably can't. But I have to try.
The simple truth of this show's montage.
I can't sleep at night.
This show's montage should be what Trump is doing every single day. And it's not even close. Nope. It's just not even close.
Exit question just for Jill. What's more likely? There will be another attempt on Trump's life, or this one was a multi-level random, incompetence? What's more likely?
Multiple attempts. If they don't first succeed, try again.
Correct.
I agree. We'll come back with more in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I've got one more day here in Dallas. And before I forget, want to thank the entire crew here. Aaron, you would know the names better than me if you want to give any shout outs, but
Chance and John. The setup this time was a little bit different than what it typically is. They had to basically start from scratch to get signal back to us, and so that took some doing, so we really appreciate them.
Absolutely, and they always do a great job here for us at the Blaze, so we want to thank the tech team for putting in the work to make it possible for you guys to be annoyed by us here for the last few days. All right. So I'm here in Dallas for the Deace Group with our friend and colleague from Blaze News Tonight, Jill Savage. I'll be on her show later this evening as well. Todd and Aaron are back there in Des Moines. Before we continue on with the Deace Group, a reminder about our friends over at Jace Medical. Again, when you're dealing with the amount of uncertainty that we are right now, and we all saw what they did the last few years, creating a biomedical fascist state, essentially. And suddenly medications that they were previously giving prestigious awards like the Nobel Prize to, they now even have NFL pregame shows referring to as horse paste and denying prescriptions for. Hydroxychloroquine that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people had been given over the counter in the last 60 years across the world. Now it's dangerous. Don't take it. Okay? Yeah, you need to make sure you've got the Jace case, first of all, so that you can be assured that the next round of award-winning medications like amoxicillin and doxycycline, how many lives have those medications saved, for example, over the years? They might be the next ones on the chopping block just when you need them the most. On the other hand, they can now expand your Jace case. You can customize it, too, to get the medications that you need. And I say this every time we talk about Jace, man. If you've got a loved one on Medicare, they are they have a proverbial gun to the head from the government. They are just at the complete mercy of the state right now. So if you want to make sure they've got the meds that they need, chances are there's backups for those too, as on the menu there over at Jace Medical. If you use my last name, Dace, as the discount code when you check out, you'll get a discount on your order at jace.com/Dace, Jase, jace.com/Dace. Again, jace.com/Dace. All right. I put this off all week long, but since they won't let it go, let's talk about it. Issue 3. Project 2025.
Donald Trump really doesn't like Project 2025, apparently. This week, Paul Dans, the head of the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, stepped down. That little organization exists to solve the main problem of the last Trump administration for the potential next Trump administration, hiring and maintaining a competent and loyal conservative staff. For some reason, the president really doesn't like it. It started back on July 5th when Trump posted this on Truth Social. I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying about me, and some of the things they are saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. He doubled down 4 days later. I know nothing about Project 2025. I've not seen it. I have no idea who's in charge of it. And unlike our very well-received Republican platform, had nothing to do with it. Trump continued to double down.
And you know, the other side's going around trying to make me sound extreme, like I'm an extremist. I'm not. I'm a person with great common sense. I'm not an extremist at all. Like some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right. And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation.
This week, after the news of the departure of Paul Dans from Project 2025, campaign managers Susie Wiles and Chris Lasavita put out a joint statement saying, quote, reports of Project 2025's demise would be greatly welcomed and should serve as notice to anyone or any group trying to misrepresent their influence with President Trump and his campaign. It will not end well for you.
All right. I've gotten more emails about this and more questions from you in the audience about this than I was hoping to see. And on purpose, I've not really talked much about it for the last 3.5 weeks. We haven't delved into it all that much, okay? But since this is an ongoing front and dialogue. And apparently we're going to talk more about this than giving Khalid Sheikh Mohammed a plea deal. And we're going to talk more about this than the president nearly got shot or took a bullet to the face for America. And we're going to talk more about this other than Jordanian illegal aliens just, tripping the light fantastic on a Marine base. We're going to talk more about this than right now, according to the fundamentals, we have the most stagnant economy since 2008. Okay, since we're gonna talk about this more than all those other things, apparently, all right, then I'm gonna be required to do my job. So, talking to little birdies I know, let me tell you what I have been told. Okay, what I have been told is that Project 2025. Heritage played a huge role in helping to staff the first Trump administration. Not as huge as many of us would probably like, but they did play a huge role. Okay. The donor class was not happy with the lack of swamp drainage that they were promised. Okay. And so a group of nonprofits, including Heritage, came forward with a plan. They all had various plans, competing plans. The Heritage one is called Project 2025. To show donors, basically, hey, we learn from our mistakes. All right. Now we know where the bodies are buried. Cut us checks to win this election. We've got an actual itemized plan now. We know where to go. We learned our lesson, and we know what we need to do. And this is what we're going to do. And they laid it all out. All right. If you were to read it, I've read maybe a third or half of it. I mean, I've read all the way through it, but I didn't read like every line of it. Meaning, I'm going through it. Okay. Basically, it's like if a dream catcher and a conservative podcast came together and said, "How would we drain the swamp?" And I'll grant you, I'll make Olivia James come through, Pedro. That's what this is. It's actually a very good plan. It's pretty solid. Okay. So then you might be tempted to say, well, Trump's just throwing his base under the bus, but it's more complicated than that. And this is where you have to understand campaigns and how they operate. All right. The cardinal sin of any support group of a campaign or an operative of a campaign is to get out ahead of the candidate and to be the thing that causes your candidate to get attacked. Let me give you an example, very personal one. Watching Hillary Clinton debate Bernie Sanders one night, and I'm on Twitter and I see Molly Hemingway at the Federalist. Hillary Clinton, first question comes right out and says, vote for me because I'm a woman. And Molly Hemingway tweets out, wow, Hillary went full vagina. Very first question. Okay. And I laughed out loud. Okay. About a week later, there's a Republican debate. All right. Carly Fiorina does the same thing. I'm the only woman here. I'm going to call Bibi Netanyahu on the same talking point she had and I stupidly tweet out, wow, Carly Fiorina went full vagina. First question. All right. Media lost its mind. Fox News, which had me completely blacklisted, made me a topic of every show 6A to 6P the next day. It was clear Roger Ailes was trying to get rid of Ted Cruz out of the campaign, found some schmuck in Iowa who said something really dumb, okay, and is going to use this to just bury the Cruz candidacy. I offered my resignation to Ted that day, which is what I'm to do, because I committed the cardinal sin. I got out ahead of the candidate, and the candidate is now responding to the support staff. That can never happen. So while I love the plan and Trump's messaging and going back against them has gone way too far to the point now he's categorizing his own base as radicals. I mean, I could see them running that commercial against us 10 or 20 years from now. Okay, if we last that long as a republic, just use Donald Trump calling us radical right-wingers right to our faces, okay? Nevertheless, the initial inclination for why they're pissed off here, I actually kind of side with them. Because you can't do that. I've made that mistake. I did it. I was the story for the next news cycle on Fox News, not Ted Cruz. Now, Ted's too nice of a guy. He should have accepted my resignation. He should have. He didn't. Okay? But he should have. Okay? But he didn't. And you just can't ever do that. You cannot get out ahead of a campaign. And so what Trump is seeing is he's now being attacked by something that's supposed to be under the surface and has gotten out ahead of him, and he's reacting to that. Now, this has gone way too far. And it's been way undisciplined because, and I don't mind, it's not, Trump is what he is. Your campaign's got to be better than this, though. I mean, just like I said this morning on Glenn's show, the DeSantis campaign needed to be the hype man for a very disciplined candidate. He was not going to be the guy that walked into an arena and captured the imagination. That's not who Ron DeSantis is. Ron DeSantis is a ruthlessly efficient administrator. He's the freaking godfather, literally. That's what he is. If you've ever been to Florida, you see it for your eyes. He's Don Corley freaking own, okay? But therefore, the messaging of that campaign needs to be, he's the Terminator. He gets stuff done. And a campaign needs to compliment a candidate. And I don't see that happening right now, by the way, on multiple fronts. But this is one of them. All right? You can't stop Donald Trump from being pissed off at the Heritage Foundation for what they did. But the campaign doesn't need to just continue to grind this axe and attack Heritage more than it's attacking Kamala. And now this is causing divisiveness. I think Molly Hemingway put out a tweet critical of Trump this week about this, and it might be the first time I've seen her criticize Donald Trump in 7 years. This is really beginning to piss off your own base. Really pissing them off. And one of my 10 commandments of political warfare, never abandon your base unless they're morally wrong. You can't ever do it. Ask President McCain. It never works. You can't do it. It won't work. They need to let this go. I actually would have, a couple of weeks ago, I'd have been like, I can see why you guys are pissed off. That's a rookie move. Can't make that mistake. I get it. But the mistake now is letting this go on for nearly a month. Aaron, what was the first date?
July 5th.
You said July 9th?
5th.
July 5th. For a month. That's just self-destructive. And so everybody's wrong. Everybody's wrong here. I mean, I was even told that the Project 2025 people promised a donor, if he donated to them, he'd get an ambassadorship. They're in no position to offer something like that. You can't do stuff like that. Don't ever get ahead of the candidate or the campaign. You can't ever do that. That is a cardinal mistake, and that's a fireable offense. I don't blame them for being upset at the people for doing that. But then to continue this narrative week after week after week has just been beyond self-destructive, and more time has been invested talking about this than talking about Iran, the border, the economy. Pick an issue. So with that background, let's get a very quick take from everybody quickly. All right? Yes or no answer. Do you think the juice has been worth the squeeze on this for the Trump campaign for the last month, Todd?
My answer is my T-shirt.
It's a pretty good answer. Aaron?
No, certainly not. No.
Jill?
No, it should have remained little birdies that you talk to.
Yeah. Because one of the things that a campaign also can't do, your support staff cannot get ahead of the candidate. That's a cardinal sin rookie move. The campaign cannot let inside baseball come to the surface so everybody knows what's going on. That's the other thing that can't happen.
No one likes the sausage being made.
Exactly.
See, that's what I thought maybe this originally was. This is what I thought it originally was, that this is just some sort of technocratic, bureaucratic nonsense that the average voter just is turned off by, and so we want to get away from that, but we're still going to utilize Project 2025 in some form if we get into the White House. That's what I originally thought this was, but this has gone on for so long. The dismissals have been so... I don't know, treacherous, so aggressive. It seems personal now.
This is where you're...
Here's the thing.
This is where your he was president before thing goes the other way, Steve. Because you're right. Stop ignoring that he hasn't been president before. He had those 4 years, 3 of them which were pretty darn good. But I apply this to him now. Trump, you've been president before. This is rookie mistake stuff. What the hell are you obsessing about? Do you really want to win or not?
The thing about inside baseball is this for a campaign, all right? People, your children and family want to hear that you're pregnant, and they want to celebrate the new life that's coming into the family. They don't want to hear the process by which you got impregnated. Does that make sense? They don't want to stumble in on that. They don't want to be hearing on that. Kids don't want to wake up middle of the night, go to the bathroom, and hear mom and daddy making their brother and sister. They don't want to know how literally the sausage is made, right? And if that's getting out, that again is on your campaign. That stuff just, that you can't let that stuff get out, man. You just can't. You just can't. It's a self. It's just, here's a gun and here's my foot. Let me see what happens when I shoot myself. Let's go to the kicker topic because we're running short on time. Issue 4, you get to pick Kamala's running mate. Who is it and why? Chill.
Cut out the middleman. Go straight to Lucifer because that's what it's all going to be anyway.
Good luck topping that answer, gentlemen. Go for it, though, quickly.
You got to get on those Olympic coattails. Admiral Dick Levine.
That's good, too.
I'm choosing Rear Admiral Buttigieg. That's who I'm going for.
All good, but... hard to top what Jill came up with. I think we'd all agree. All right, predictions, Todd, go quickly.
This will pound for pound be the lowest turnout election in American history.
I absolutely think we may have the lowest under 40 turnout election in American history. I think that's absolutely possible. Aaron?
So today officially is the day of, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Big Ten expansion. So it is football season. The Iowa Hawkeyes will end with a 9-3 record.
So it begins.
I just did that for
the
you.
Record almost every year.
Yeah.
Okay, Jill.
Every year.
Yeah.
Gird your loins. You think that you know inflation. You haven't begun to see it. What is going on right now? Everything is going to start. It's going to get increasingly worse.
You just hate transgender people, Jill. Did I gaslight correctly?
You're right, Todd.
Did I gaslight correctly?
You're right. That's it.
Thank you for introducing me to an Osmond today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I mean, because I might be cutting myself. I might be self-harming right now if that had not happened. Straight up. I could be self-harming as we speak. I mean, I could just be bleeding out right here.
And he loves you. He thinks you're great.
No, that was I needed to remind myself that Americana lives somewhere. So thank you for that. My prediction is we will look back on this time period after this election is over. And we will see it as either the only time anybody ever really thought Kamala could win, that we're all just caught up in this moment of this charm offensive and this PR campaign. And then eventually she opens her mouth and you're like, oh yeah, it's Kamala Harris. We'll either think that, or we will think that Trump did not do enough with the positive narratives of the last month of news cycles when he had the chance to clinch a win. I think this is the determinative moment. Why? Because I think what happens from here will be responses to events you can't control. Like Hillary Clinton could not control. James Comey sent a letter the last week before the election reminding everybody she's a total corruptocrat. She could control though how many times to go and campaign in Wisconsin. She could control that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. We're now going into the part of the race where the things you can control. All right, like Trump could not control that they censored Hunter Biden's laptop on him 4 years ago. That's beyond his control. What will happen after this window, and this window will close with the Democratic convention at the end of this month. When this window ends, and it's post-Labor Day, now it's really just about what organically occurs in the process. Does Kamala Harris nail the one and only debate they have or faceplant? You can't control that, okay? And this right now is the last window for the Trump campaign to make the moves to maximize what they can control. And they will either do it and win, or they won't, and they won't. And I think we'll look back on this 95 days from now, or whenever it is, and come to that conclusion. Jill, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks in advance for coming on my show tonight.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to more of your sunshine. Yes. Feedback Friday is next. All right, back with Hour 2 here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. They're back there in Des Moines. I'm Steve Deace here, one more day in Dallas, heading home tomorrow. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter or X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then if you listen to the podcast version, thank you. We appreciate that. You guys are a big part of our show's mystifying survival. All right, so please, if you wouldn't mind, if you have not done this yet, leave us a 5-star review. And we thank all of you who have, each and every one of them. Combined on all the various platforms, we are in the tens of thousands of 5-star reviews now. But the goal this year is we'd love to get 10,000 on iTunes, since that's the biggest podcast provider. Why is it a goal? Because I couldn't come up with anything else. And I have no idea if it's even meaningful. I just thought it was a nice round number. So we're about 300 and some away from that. So please keep those coming. We really appreciate it. You can also hit subscribe, or if you are on iTunes, hit follow. And that means every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your feed every single time. And we thank all of you that have done that too. You're going to thank us if you try out Backyard Butchers, because they have some of the absolute best meat out there. I can tell you, I tried it myself one day this summer, grilled the store-bought beef, and I'm in Iowa, man. Right? We don't. I went to a restaurant here in Frisco last night, and they were bragging about this pork chop they have.
Oh, no.
And so I said to Amy, I got to at least try some of this, from Iowa. And it was good, man, but I'm like, get over yourself, okay? I mean, we're the pork capital of the world. I mean, I'm from Iowa. We've got good meat in our grocery stores. I went and got the grocery store hamburger and grilled it next to the Backyard Butcher's hamburger. No contest. Absolutely no contest at all. All right, grass-fed, grain-finished. The meat tastes amazing. I can verify that. And that's why they've got over 500,000 happy customers across America. It's so many 5-star reviews with their American-based customer service team of stay-at-home moms, which means they've got this thing on lockdown. All right, so if you want to give it a shot today, you can get 20% off your first entire order. And then if you were to subscribe, you'd get an additional 10% off and free shipping at backyardbutchers.com/Deace. All right, that's backyardbutchers.com/Deace and use the code Deace as well. All right, backyardbutchers.com/Deace. Now, this restaurant I went to last night, I don't want to totally bury him because I did have one of the top 5 steaks I've ever had in my life there. All right, so leave the pork to the Iowans, okay? But they cooked up a Wagyu steak there, really expensive, so I had to get the small one, okay? But holy crap, that was good. So I don't want to bury him too much. I'd give him a shout out, but I honestly don't remember the name. I don't remember the name of the place. All right, I think after the first hour and the morning that I have had, we need a palate cleanser. And I'm looking at what's lined up here for Feedback Friday, and man, I did not intend this. But the timing of this, I just, put them in the order that I thought they were interesting to discuss this week. But the timing of this is prescient. I mean, we need to get our priorities in order, as Ron Weasley once said. And Aaron knows what that means. All right, so let's start here. I wanted to reach out to your show and say thanks. I'm a longtime listener. I found you guys in 2015. You quickly became my go-to for all things news and analysis, especially given our family's faith and my love for sports and pop culture. Back then, I was a combat vet suffering from PTSD and a cop whose hard heart and poor habits were making it so much worse for both me and my family. In the decades since, God has done a mighty work both in my life and the story of our family. I've been an associate pastor at a large evangelical church in the Denver area for the last 4.5 years. And I've seen God bring us healing and restoration that we didn't deserve, while also using this fallen idiot's skill and experience in emergency response to help lead our church's efforts during the shutdown in 2020. All of this has been an absolute work of God and an abundant gift of grace. And as I think back on it all, I can't help but hear your voices as the markers of time, to everything from Trump first coming down the escalator to allowing me to play a little buy-seller hold, to bringing both levity and a sobering biblical lens to all that happened these past many years. There have been few days of doing chores or mowing lawns when you guys weren't along with me in my ear, making me laugh, think, and pray. I share this now because in the next couple of weeks, I may be leaving my current gig to become the new lead pastor at a small church just to the south of us. They've been without a lead for a few years, but have remained faithful and are excited for bold leadership in these turbulent times. As a combat vet and an ex-cop, I'm hoping I may be just what they're looking for, a guy with thick skin but a soft heart, who has lived through many battles and is ready to lead a local flock of God's people with a clear, simple voice of bold faith, come what may. You guys have played a part in bringing me here and helped me contextualize an Elijah-like faith to a broken world where hell has clearly opened and is throwing everything at the church, including the kitchen sink. But the deepest desire of my heart is that I would be one more lead pastor who is ready to rebuke the weak and feckless evangelical trends of recent decades to preach boldly, plainly, and faithfully, regardless of what the doctrines of demons throws back. Thanks in part to you guys, I see what time it is, and I think I'm ready to help lead his church through it. We love and worship and serve the Lion of Judah, yet far too many of us live like cowardly little lambs. May the Lord fill me as a faithful under-shepherd that leads his people back into the bold light of his truth, reflecting both it and his image unto a world desperate for both. Thank you again for all you do. May the Lord bless you guys greatly and encourage you guys for the fight still to come, and continue using you to continue raising up more bold men and women of the faith. Best and blessings from Chris in Colorado.
Amen.
Amen to that. And I have I have the privilege of getting to say this more often than I probably should remember. But I get to say, when I get stories like this is why we do this. And this is why we do it the way that we do it. This is why. And if you've had both sons and daughters, as I've been fortunate to have, you find out really quick they're not the same. Okay? I mean, I saw Noah last night. He's down here in Dallas doing an internship with Believe Entertainment this summer. And so this is the longest he's been away from home. So I got to see our son. That's who I was at dinner with last night. Went to dinner with the Believe team, and he came along so we could see our kid again, because we have spent much of this some of the summer here without him. And afterwards, one of the Believe guys, Carrie, came up to me and said, "Man, him being down here the last few weeks, I see a lot of you in him." Now, if you would have known Noah when he was a little dude, okay, he had a very soft heart, still does, but it could be easily broken. He could be easily disappointed. His sisters loved on him immensely, babied him immensely. He was Mama's baby, okay, and she babied him too. But Mama and I had an agreement. She got to do that until the time came that he couldn't be babied anymore. And even I babied him too. I mean, he'd sit on my lap during family movie night, and he'd hold my hand through Disney World and all those kinds of things too. Okay, but the moment would come when the switch would have to be flipped. And he would need to be treated differently than the girls. That switch has never flipped with the girls. I still talk to Zoe and Anna now the way I did when they were little. Sweetie, what do you need me for? I'm a little disappointed. I think you could have done that better. I know you can do that better. With Noah, I'll literally just look at him and say, "You need to get your head out of your ass, because we both know you can do better, so go do it." And he'll respond. Because he's a dude. And we have to talk to men differently than women, because they're different. And you really see this when you're raising both kinds at the same time. You see the differences. And one of the things that's become very prevalent to us on this show in the last few years, as the biblical worldview has always been our prime directive, there have been different methodologies and priorities by which we have tried to prosecute it or advance it or implement it or deploy it at any given time of the show. And if you went back and listened to the show when Jen and Rebecca were here, and before Todd and Aaron, largely all the same principles, but it sounded different. First of all, they're women, and Todd and Aaron are not, in case you hadn't noticed. But shortly in the first few years after Todd and Aaron came on board, it became very apparent to me that the men are the problem, or the lack thereof. And if you want to reach men, they have to be communicated differently to than women. It is way more likely you are going to get hold of a man's heart for God by confronting him with the justice and holiness of God and the truth of his word than the love, mercy, and grace of God. Now, men, God's love, mercy, and grace is every bit as prevalent as his justice, holiness, righteousness, and truth, correct? He's all of those things at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But men aren't, but people aren't all those things at the same time. And much of the messaging in the church in this era has been effeminate. It's been targeted to women, because women go to church more than men. Now, do women go to church more than men because the language has been feminized, or did the language become feminized and so men stopped going to church? And the answer to that is yes, and it probably depends on the era, trend, and style of church. It's symbiosis. But the men are not going to respond to, in fact, let me put it this way. Think of all the great sports movies you've ever seen. I was on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday. I quoted from Miracle, and she got the quote and talked about how much she loved the movie. All right. So, Herb Brooks. Not making a movie if Herb Brooks stands in there before they take on the Soviet Union in the semifinals of the 1980 Olympics at Lake Placid and says, guys, you tried your best out here. You guys really worked really hard, and you're so supportive of one another. And I mean, the conversations have been really nurturing. I mean, you guys are laughing. There are people, a lot of you listening to this are laughing right now because you know this is ridiculous, But here's the thing, that this goes back to the Sean Astin conversation last hour. That's actually what's going down. And that's what the Men for Kamala whole conversation was. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity, folks. Doesn't exist. There is only masculinity, and all other male behavior outside of that is toxic. Let me repeat that again. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. There is only masculinity, and all male behavior outside of masculinity is what is toxic. Sean Astin sitting there going from playing Rudy to Samwise to starring in a decade's worth of faith-based films with his hat backwards in his posh home, pontificating at age 50 over men getting together to discuss our feelings. You're right, because that's not happening anywhere in the culture except for everywhere, actually. Except for everywhere. There's a reason why when Herb Brooks wants to motivate those young men to one of the greatest accomplishments in American athletic history. Doesn't read poetry. He's not quoting from romance literature. They're men. And they need to be challenged. And those men were challenged all the way through. And at the end of being challenged all the way through, they get to hear Al Michaels say, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And it is then that they discuss one another's feelings of significance, of success, of camaraderie, of achievement. It is then that they hug. It is then that they shed tears. Because they've done the thing. We now think hugging and sharing tears is the thing. No, it's not. We're not women. And there's nothing wrong with being a woman. I happen to like them, if anything. I've liked the ladies too much over the years, and it's been a downfall or two in my life. We're not women. We're men. And for us to reach the men was going to require a different style of communication. So, for example, I'll just pick on Todd for a second because he's a man, so I know he can take it. There are a few of you ladies that have emailed me in the last couple of weeks. I'm tired of Todd's act. No one's ever good enough. Nothing works. Okay? That message isn't his message right now. We want you to listen. Okay? But he's not doing that for you. He's doing that for your husband, who asks you every night, "What do you want to do?" "I don't have a plan. What do you want?" And, you're hoping that this is the Friday night he'll actually have a plan and come home and say, "Baby, put on your do-me pumps and red lipstick. We're going to your favorite restaurant, and this is the movie we're going to see." You're longing for that. When you were a teenage girl fed feminism, you thought, "Hey, I like the fact that he's sensitive and lets me make decisions." Now you're like, make a damn decision, dude. Make one, please. Todd's doing that for your husband. You're a single mom. You don't have one. He's doing that for your son. Because that is what men will respond to. Which is why there's never been a poetic, romantic win-win for the Gipper speech. There's never been a moment at halftime where the coach is like, "Boys, you're doing your best out there. Just keep going." Never happened. Not once. At least not in a game that was actually won by the coach saying such things. The men must be communicated to differently. They must be challenged differently. They must be reached differently. They're not women. And almost all of the messaging in our culture right now on an institutional level is feminized. So yeah, sometimes we are pushy, confrontational, obnoxious. That's what it takes to reach men, particularly flaccid ones. They're flaccid because they've heard all the lovey-dovey stuff. They've heard it all. And that's how you get to the point now that we are taking masculine pursuits and fetishizing them, which we were also talking about last hour. That's now where we go from, I'm watching Braveheart, and after your sons watch Braveheart, here's the proper response. After your sons watch Braveheart or a Rocky film, the proper response is don't let them know you're doing it, but you keep one eye on them because you're afraid that when they go out and play after that, they're going to freaking kill each other. And someone's going to get seriously hurt. That is the proper response. The current response is, okay, great. I'm going to fire up the Xbox. When I was growing up, we played Atari and Nintendo because it was too cold to play outside or there were tornadoes. We didn't actually think Double Dribble was better than playing real basketball. We didn't actually think Tecmo Bowl was better than playing real football. It was just in case you can't. Now it is a replacement for these pursuits. And Todd is correct about that, what he noted last hour. The correct response to seeing a movie like The Patriot is for your kids to then go out and play with guns, toy guns, and then argue with one another over who's going to have to be the redcoats and take the L, to the point that it nearly causes a damn fist fight. That is the proper response to that. And that's how you have a country like America right there. What we have right now is your kid's scrolling on his phone while Mel Gibson is dodging cannonball explosions on The Patriot. That's what we have now. That kid's now a man. He watched The Patriot 25 years ago. He's got kids now. They're also just scrolling on their phone too. We have to reach the men. And they're not going to be reached with platitudes, and they're not going to be reached with niceties. They have to be challenged. They have to be broken. Here's a man in Colorado, a soldier and a cop, and he's telling you, I had to be broken. I had to be challenged. I had to be confronted. And now I'm ready to ultimately be, I'm ready to be another form of a warrior now. A warrior for Christ. A warrior in the pulpit. If you want to change this culture, elections are very important. I'm not even going to tell you most of the conversations I had this morning because they'll demoralize you. And I came in here demoralized until Jill just happened to let me meet an Osmond, which was great and reminded me Americana lives at least somewhere still. I happen to think this election's pretty damned important. And I kind of think that if Kyle Rittenhouse is coming out saying he's not going to vote for Trump, I got kids Kyle Rittenhouse's age. Now, I don't know that young man at all, never met him. I do know he put his life on the line for his principles and nearly lost it all, which is more than almost any of us have. If we're losing Kyle Rittenhouse, I kind of think the problem isn't Kyle Rittenhouse, but
Bingo.
What we're doing wrong right now. Okay, that's what I kind of think. And as important as I think this election is, though, if you really want to win a culture war, if you really want to win a spiritual war, what we're really doing, what really does it, and has always done it, is stories like Chris in Colorado. A man challenged, a man confronted, and then a man encouraged and called, who then steps in to the fullness of the potential that his heavenly Father made him for. And especially when that man is the head of a household, and even more so when he's the head of a church. That's what wins a culture war. You cannot win a culture war with just elections. You can certainly lose them in elections, that's for sure. It's more likely you'll lose a culture war in an election than win it. But if you want to win it, it's this story here. This is the dub right here. This is where generations of people now get changed and discipled and catechized and encouraged and equipped. Happens right there. And that's why we're so hard on the church, and that's why we're so hard on the men. because the men are to run the church. And the men ultimately determine the direction of any culture. And we're failing in those two areas right now as a people. If the men in the church were where they're supposed to be, none of you within the sound of my voice would know who Chris Lasavita is. None of you would know. You wouldn't know. None of you could tell me right now, I don't know, who ran Dwight Eisenhower's successful 1952 and 1956 presidential campaigns. Who knows? I have no clue. You wouldn't know. There'd be no need to know. Doesn't mean the election wasn't important, votes weren't important. But the challenge of being the man my family needs and deserves, that my community and my legacy need and deserve, would be so overwhelming you wouldn't have time to know such information. So I ask you, were we a much better culture when you didn't know everything about how the sausage was made politically, but men were more involved in their church and in their homes, or where we are now, where we know way too much about how the sausage is made at an even at best imperfect political process? Then we know we can count on our churches to push back, even in a sermon, let alone in any form of activism. We can count on our fathers to defend us, let alone just eject. That's what I thought. I want to go next to this story. This is from Patrick. I got baptized Sunday. It was an amazing experience. I started listening to your show in 2019. The majority of my path to salvation occurred between 2018 and now. I was listening to you guys' show at the same time all these other things were happening in my life, and it not only reinforced but made a lot of things click for me. The three of you contributed greatly to my journey to Christ. It feels strange to tell people I've never met and probably never will meet that you've been a big part of my life, but this is true. I knew I was ready to get baptized now because when I first heard my church talk about baptizing 5 years ago, it sounded like my worst nightmare. I'm naturally introverted, and I was not confident in my faith. The stretch of river is very crowded in the summer with people tubing and swimming and partying. I thought I would feel so embarrassed and like a weirdo out there in the middle of a very secular situation. But this last Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m., I was nothing but excited to get out there and profess my faith in Christ. The more people who saw me, the better. And if God used that moment to plant a seed in somebody else, then glory to God for that. I'm a very changed person, and the old me is dead. Thank you again to all three of you. Again, that's from Patrick, who sent some awesome photos of his baptism. Did you see this again? I walked in fear, he said. But now I'm alive in Christ. So bring it. Like David said, confronted by Saul's bitter daughter, that he has aligned the 12 tribes of Israel that Saul never could. That he is the true messianic line that Saul will never be. And his wife, who was Saul's bitter daughter, comes to him and says, "You're out here dancing with the commoners. It's disgraceful. Act like a king." And David removes even more of his kingly garments and says, "For what the Lord has done for me, I will become even more undignified than this." That's what you just heard from Patrick. Now he's ready. Doesn't mean he won't fall. Doesn't mean he won't make mistakes. But now he is ready to get into the fight. He's ready. He's ready. It should not be so easy to persuade the men in your life. It should not be. If it is, that's a problem. Doesn't mean that men should hold on stubbornly to things that aren't true, idols that are not worthy and rewarding. But if you can constantly get a man to change his mind, that is a problem. So here's another guy. Challenged, confronted. I'm going to have to go out here. Everybody's going to see me. Everybody's here at this river vacationing in the summertime. Everybody's going to know, oh, I'm really nervous. Now he's like, I can't wait for them to know. Hell yeah. Might come back next Sunday, do it again. How you like them apples? The two stories I just shared with you folks are how you built the greatest country in the history of this earth. These two stories right here. Because the blessing to the women and children that come out of these kinds of stories is now where this trickles down and filters down generationally. So yeah, we can be challenging. We can be obnoxious. If you think Todd talks to his 4 daughters the way he talks to the men on this show, then you obviously have never been a girl dad. I don't talk to my son the way I talk to my daughters even now. Because they're not the same. And Aaron will learn this too. He's been a girl dad for a few months. He is going to learn, as he's already learning, as Ben is breaking more bones as a toddler than I've broken in my life. He's already learning they're different. And he's going to treat them differently. They're going to be held to the same standard as kids, but they're going to be treated differently because they're different. We have to reach your men. You want us to reach your men. And the men need to be reached. And for that to happen, men have to be challenged, not coddled. Because if they can't answer that challenge, then they won't know they have what it takes to fulfill their duty and destiny. They won't know. And what men who don't know that will do. The worst thing Dave ever did to me, the physical abuse, all that other stuff, I'm way over that. You know what took me years to get over? The fact that I so desired to earn his approval. I got all these varsity letters. I got a varsity letter for academics for overachievement, man. All this overachievement, all of it. And never once did I one time hear, I'm proud of you. You did it. I was hard on you because I knew you could do it. And now you're ready. Go kill it. Never heard that once. You know how many young men had never heard that from a father either? And the galactic solar system sized hole in all these young men's hearts have a lot to do with everything that we are suffering from as a culture right now. Right now. More in a moment. Hey, our friends over at Hillsdale have extended Independence Day month into August, so you can still see that inspiring portrayal of Thomas Jefferson as he is reflecting back on the meaning of his phenomenal treatise. I would argue it's one of the greatest works in humanity's history, the Declaration of Independence. And he reflects back on it in a letter he wrote late in his life. If you want to see this portrayal, you can do that at daceforhillsdale.com. I know a lot of homeschoolers, for example, having been one of those myself. You guys might be starting already. You kind of may start a little bit early. This, I would think, would be a phenomenal homeschool edition. Maybe you need something to supplement what your kids are getting at the government schools. This would do that as well. You can go see this video at daceforhillsdale.com. Frankly, it might be one of the few kids in your kid's government school that even knows the Declaration of Independence is. daceforhillsdale.com, and you can also get a free commemorative copy of the Declaration of Independence as well on behalf of Hillsdale College. Go there right now. daceforhillsdale.com. Again, daceforhillsdale.com. All right, let's get some more in here on a Feedback Friday. Jacob Pessia writes, that was a great breakdown that you guys did earlier this week of the genuflecting of the right to win the black vote. And again, I got to tell you, even if Trump wins 5 more, he had 18% of the black male vote in 2020. He gets 5 points, he gets 23%. That would be more than any Republican candidate has received probably since 1960. I don't think it'll make a difference in the electoral outcome. I really don't. And keep in mind, even while getting historic black, I didn't even mention this the other week. One of you guys emailed me and pointed this out to me. And if I remembered your name, I would say so. So if it's you, know that I'm thanking you for doing that. Because one of you emailed me this week and says, Steve, you're pointing out that Barack Obama had record high, just to reinforce your case that it's actually about the white vote, that Barack Obama had record high black turnout in 2008 and 2012, and he still lost Georgia both times. Yeah. It's really about the white vote. Now, I hate all that stuff. I don't like any of it. We don't spend a lot of time doing like racial, blasts, and I'm not comfortable with it. I don't like it. And a lot of it is because race as we define it is not a biblical construct. Race exists in the Bible, but not the way that we define it. And so the way we define it, it's almost impossible to discuss it at all in alignment with the biblical worldview. And since the biblical worldview is kind of the prime directive of the show, that makes it difficult to discuss something that doesn't align with it in any context other than negative. But one of you pointed out to me, even with that record high black turnout in 2008 and 2012, Obama still lost Georgia twice. Correct. Further proving my point, it's about the white vote. Okay? But even if Trump did get 5 more points and 23%, again, most of the black vote, as we showed you this week, is either in places we cannot lose, like Mississippi, or cannot win, like Maryland. Meanwhile, there are white women in every state, and there are lots of married people in every state. There are independents in every state. Even if Trump were to get 25% of the black male vote. So if it's 13%, and let's say black men are 46% of that, we're really talking about 5% overall of the total electorate. You're getting 5 more points of 5% overall of the electorate. What is the point of that? Nothing. It's a waste of your time. Independents are going to be at least a quarter of the electorate, maybe as much as a third. And if Gallup is right, they might be 40% of it. There's no amount of black male vote you can win that'll make up for losing 3 to 5 point independents by 3 to 5 points nationwide. Married women are going to be at a minimum 35% of this election, at a minimum. There's no percentage of the black male vote you could possibly win that would overcome not winning the married woman vote by at least 2 more points. The math just doesn't work. And yet how much time and content is wasted on this? And money. Well, Jacob thinks he has a theory. He says, I agree with you that it's not our issue on the right to appeal and obsess about this sliver of the vote. But have you considered that the way to win the white women vote is to pander to the black population? Isn't it educated white women that tend to find that type of pandering to be a good thing? Could this be a long-term play to big tent the GOP as Trump rebranding the party? So I wanted to mention Jacob's note because it's similar. Our colleague Jason Whitlock sent me a text this week when he saw my video, and he has his take's a little bit more specific, but in general, it kind of agrees with Jacob's premise. Here's what I would say in response. We're already winning the white women vote, as I pointed out. The best that Democrats have done with white women this century is they got a 49-49 tie in 2000. They have not won the Democrats have not won the married women vote since 1996. And they have not won the white women vote so far this century. So I know we're all obsessed with Karens because they are annoying as hell. But they're really not most of the white women in the suburbs. There are too many of them. And they're growing like a cancer. But they're not too many of them. Or they're not all of them. There are too many of them, but not all of them. Trump, if Donald Trump cannot lose the white women vote, then I'm not sure what a Republican could do to lose the white women vote, if we're being brutally honest. And that's how we roll around here. So if he can just improve with that group by a couple of points, Kamala Harris's black turnout will be beyond irrelevant. Won't matter. Won't matter. That's the math that we pointed out to you. So I think Jacob, you and Jay, I think you and Whitlock could be correct that they think that getting rid of the stigma of being seen as racist is how we'll actually unlock that vote. I don't agree with that premise if they think it. There's no data to support it. It just doesn't exist. I haven't seen it because it doesn't exist. The best performance we've done with white women so far this century was George W. Bush in 2004. And he did it by being seen as much stronger on crime and national security than John Kerry. That's the best performance we've done with white women and married women this century. That's the only data point that I have on how to win more of that vote, which we're already winning. I've seen some people. I saw Naomi Wolf doing this, and you guys know I adore her, okay, and admire her. But this idea that Republicans need to completely reimagine how to win the women vote and communicate to them, it's just not accurate. That's just not what the data says. It just doesn't. All Republicans need to do is win a little bit more, a group they always already win. Instead of getting 54 or 55% of the married vote, they just need to get 56 or 57. Instead of getting 52% of the white women vote, they need to get 54 or 55. They don't need wholesale changes at all. You know what they need? White women and married women need to hear Donald Trump talk more about, here are all the rapists, murderers, and criminals that I'm going to fry. And here's all the groomers I'm going to kick out of the schools before they castrate your kids. More than he's talking about Project 2025. That's what they need. More than he's talking about, more than he's resurrecting Don Lemon's nuanced take on the true racial and ethnic identity of Kamala Harris. That's what they need. You know, voters have this really silly thing that they want the elections to be about you and not about them. Or about them and not about you. Or at least the voters that vote for us. Which is why whenever elections are about personalities, Democrats win, and when they're about issues, Republicans win. Now, it looked for a while, as long as Joe Biden was their face, that Donald Trump could win a personality-based election. We were talking about that as we were in the lead-up to determining whether they were going to fulfill what I was predicting, that they were going to get rid of him. But until then, they were winning. Trump was winning a personality-based race because there's nothing Democrats could do to overcome the objection of your candidate is senile and not sane. But that's not, you can't overcome that objection. So it was going to be about personality. Well, now that they got rid of the senile candidate, it's back to being about issues. I can promise you this, and this is probably something you're going to hear me say a lot the next 45 days until Pennsylvania votes, the next 90 days until the country votes. If this election is about Donald Trump's personality, we are going to lose. If this election is about Donald Trump's presidency, we are going to win. And it's really just that simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. Guys, running for president's really, really hard. Take it from a guy who was on a campaign for just 6 months trying it. I can't even imagine doing it 3 times as Mr. Trump is doing. And going to the general and to the end of it every single time. It's really hard. And it should be. It's the toughest job in the world you're running for. But it's excruciatingly hard. There's going to be plenty of mistakes, plenty of rakes stepped on. Unavoidable. We're humans. But I promise you, if we go into November 5th talking more about Donald Trump's personality than his presidency, we are going to lose. And if we go into that date talking more about his presidency than his personality, we're going to win. It's that simple. Not easy, but it's that simple. Gentlemen, do you want to add anything to that?
My T-shirt. You've been all over it today. I'm glad. It needs to be said. If not now, when? Or whatever. We're 90 days out. Come on, guys. What's been happening? Really, that speech. We wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and many tried. But after a GOP convention that, let's face it, we don't have a very high bar for those ever in our adult lifetime, Steve. But he said, I rewrote my speech, and then we got what we got. And it's just been the same Trumpian roller coaster ever since. My point in all this is why I said, let's just unite the tribes. Let's be adults here. I don't know what else to say about. We don't all have to agree about the exact same stuff. But we have to agree that there was a New York in 1970 that had lots of crime and maybe Son of Sam and all kinds of weird stuff. But New Yorkers didn't hate their damn country. And this one does. And I'm being I swear, what I will swear to you is this: what I'm doing isn't an act. I know in my bones that what we're doing isn't good enough. I'm absolutely certain of it. And I'm just begging in any way I can for the people that have to set up in a republic, step up in a republic, step up. I'm simultaneously so encouraged and so depressed every day, but that there's this group called Moms for Liberty. They have been kicking ass and taking names, but they should not exist. They are filling a vacuum that is ours. Correct. And we forsake it all the time for reasons that your excuses that keep coming to me. And honestly, I will, if you keep thinking.
You know who didn't have Moms for Liberty? The Sons of Liberty.
Yes.
That's who didn't have Moms for Liberty. The Sons of Liberty. Yeah, exactly.
Being a male is not a leisure pursuit. And I know I'm hitting you where it hurts because you guys are so comfortable. And if you were that comfortable, listen, there's a reason why. I've taken tons of L's, guys. Tons of L's. I had to move my family out of a school district. That was an L. All right? But it got to the point where I exposed so much that the only way they could stop me, one guy, is make up stuff about me and send the cops after me. But no charges. Nothing ever happened. Never arrested, no nothing. But that's the card they went to for one guy. All right? So if that's you too, you go do whatever you want to on your private time. But you and I both know that's not what's happened. And if it was, this country would be a far different place.
Kind of piggybacking on that and going back to the first segment from this hour. Ultimately, the course of history. Now, I say this with the subtext, or the pretext, I should say, that God is sovereign over history. Okay, so you're going to get 5 emails if I don't say that. And when I'm talking about good men here, I'm talking about not how God judges good and evil, like we've been talking about a couple weeks ago in Romans. Okay, I'm just talking about generally good, positively motivated men. Just those 2 disclaimers before I say this. The course of history is ultimately decided by men, that is plural, not man, not a man, men. Now, the course of history changed with a man, but when we're talking about down here, it's decided by men, plural, men, who decide to do the hard thing. What we have right now is men, plural, who decide to do no thing, regardless of political stripes. Just that's the state of masculinity in this culture. And that's a death sentence. That's a death sentence. It can be reversed, but it's a death sentence for any society. Ultimately, though, whether we meet our death sentence some way from without or within, there will be men who decide to do the hard thing again. And they will decide the course of history. Now, the operative word here, again, is men. The thing that needs to be decided is whether or not they're good men or evil men. At any moment, if you consider yourself a good man, motivated by good things, good desires, you could, men, again, plural, you could change history if you wanted to. Because someday, evil men might arise who decide they want to take history a different direction. We don't want to get to that point. And the decision is yours. What is the hard thing in your world? It's going to be different than the hard thing in Elon Musk's world. It's going to be different than the hard things in Donald Trump's world. But ultimately, what Todd says all the time, what are you prepared to do? What is the hard thing?
That is cash money, Aaron. Basically, what Aaron just told you is men who are willing to do the hard things will either do those hard things to you or for you. Those are your only 2 options. There's not an in-between. So it'll be the evil men who will do the hard things to you, or it'll be the good men who will do the hard things for you. That's it. Those are the only options. And right now, we have a dearth of good men willing to do the hard things for you. And that's one of our primary focuses right now on this show.
One thing really quick before you get to this last thing.
Really quick?
Yes, really quick. I realized we've made several ovations to Todd's shirt, and we never actually said for the podcast audience what's on his shirt. It's the Who is Dumbest Last Loses shirt. Just want to make that correction.
That was Todd's tagline of the
2018.
Thank you. Yeah, of the 2016 camp. 2016, yeah. Our friends at Focus on the Family. This is another asset. I mean, if you are struggling to stay on the narrow road with your family, and this is a ministry that has helped parents, people of faith, for Christians for decades. And you can get Jim Daly's podcast as well. Focus on the Family with JimDaly.com is the website to go and get that. You'll get relatable, practical, generally interesting teaching and biblically sound advice on marriage and parenting in order to help, again, rebuild the walls of this culture. Focus on the Family with JimDaly.com is where you can go with every episode designed to help you confidently guide your loved ones through these unprecedented times. Focus on the Family with JimDaly.com is where you want to go. That's Focus on the Family with JimDaly.com. All right, everybody have a great weekend. We're going to stick around and do overtime for subscribers for the rest of you. We're going to see you again on Monday. Until then, Romans 8:28.